Everyone, it's 7 o'clock and I'd like to call together the December 12th, 2024 school committee meeting. If you would please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Up there, it was like, I know. All right, this evening we have our consent agenda posted, which are the minutes from the November 21st, 2024 meeting, as well as the oath of bills and payroll. Everybody have a chance to go over the minutes? No proposed edits? We have a motion to accept.
And we accept the consent agenda.
Motion made by Elaine,
Second.
seconded by Vino. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. So first opportunity for interested citizens. Will be a second opportunity towards the tail end of the meeting. Is anybody with us this evening that would like to speak for the school committee, either in person or on Zoom?
We do not.
Now's your chance.
We do not.
Dorothy's closing that, so. Close the citizens portion of the meeting, and we have a number of recognitions to get through. The first of which will be from our student representative, Harish Ganesh. Thank you for joining us this evening. Look forward to your report.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. A couple updates from the four schools. On Wednesday, the Shaker Lane School collaborated with the Littleton Police Department to host a safety drill should the students ever require one. The Russell Street School is participating in a very important assembly tomorrow about AI and the future of AI. Principal McDonald would like to thank Ms. McGregor and the other AI ambassadors for facilitating it. And next Thursday, RSS will hold a school-wide sing-along in the afternoon. Littleton Middle School, as usual, hosted a holiday bazaar, and Littleton Middle School Drama Club is preparing to present Newsies Junior in January. Littleton High School hosted their winter concert last week on December 4th, and they begin their winter sports seasons.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Next, we usually go to Superintendent Kalinsky, but I'm going to stick with the order here. So we have an update from the Playbook Initiative. Director of Student Services, Lynn Snow.
We're excited that we're going to be participating in Playbook Initiative again this year. We were selected again. We're one of 20 districts across Massachusetts that was selected to participate. And they've actually added 3 districts from Maine to join the initiative, which is fantastic. And just to give a quick recap, it is a partnership among Project 351, the Boston Celtics, and the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. It's an anti-discrimination and bias prevention program, and it's led by student trainers in school districts throughout the state. And so on November 21st, Littleton was represented at the Playbook Initiative Immersion Summit by student trainers and LHS juniors, Harris Khan and Kira Shirvino. They were our trainers last year, and they will be training the middle school staff again this year. Also representing Littleton was Assistant Principal Matt Levangie at the middle school. I attended as well, and Littleton Middle School math teacher Amy Manheimer has joined as our Playbook educator this year. And so it's a great opportunity. We were able to really delve deeply into the Playbook's guiding principles and engage with experts and educators across the state. And so following the summit, Kira and Harris participated in the first train the trainer session on December 1st at Wellesley College, where they gave valuable tools to help implement the Playbook strategies at the ground level. Harris actually attended a full day conference for all of the Project 351 ambassadors across the state. It was a really amazing and inspirational day. The trainers will continue their professional development and then begin to schedule the trainings for the middle schoolers. The sessions prepare the trainers to be able to equip the students with knowledge and practices to gain, to give them the experience and support that they need to be student influencers at the middle school. And so the selection for us to participate in Playbook Initiative, it speaks volumes about the commitment of the school community to challenge ourselves and to consistently improve the experiences and outcomes for our staff and students. And so we really wanted to take this opportunity to commend the team for their leadership and for representing the district so well at the summit. It continues to be a transformative partnership, and we're confident that the initiative will positively impact educators and students for years to come. And so we're just grateful that we're able to have the commitment and the participation and the support from the district in which to move forward with this initiative.
Perfect, great.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Snow about the?
Just that I hope they come again in the spring. An incredible presentation they'll be in.
That's and
Yeah.
thank you.
We can make that happen.
That's our only ask.
That's right.
You got it.
All right, great. Superintendent Clenchey?
Yeah, just, I'm thrilled that we're part of the Playbook Initiative for the second year in a row. It's somewhat unique to have 2 consecutive years being part of Project 351, this particular initiative. The only other thing I'd like to mention is we have implemented school status, so any notifications in terms of school delays or school closures will be sent through school status. Our Blackboard program that we're using before, we won't be using it. You probably won't notice a difference. You're still going to get the same type of phone call chain that we use with the Blackboard process. And we're still getting used to school status, so still working some kinks out. Just yesterday, we found a way to be able to use our app on our iPhone, on our phones to be able to post messages, which is huge for us. Rather than trying to take a picture and then send a picture to yourself, get on your computer and post from there. We go right from our app. So thrilled about that. Other than that, one more week until our holiday break. I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful holiday break and looking forward to seeing everybody back in the new year.
Went quick, didn't it?
It did.
All right. Closed subject recognition portion of the evening. We've got one order of new business and a number of presentations scheduled for this evening. So our singular new business item, I'd like to invite Police Chief Matt Bernard to the podium to have a conversation with the school committee and the superintendent to discuss the need for an additional school resource officer. Welcome.
Welcome, thanks. Appreciate you guys having me tonight. Of course. I honestly don't know where to start. And I say that because I feel like we've been kicking this can down the road the last probably 7 years since I've been chief. One of my goals when I became chief was to get a second hospital into the schools. Dr. Wazinski, she's in the schools right now, and just from January 1 until this date, she's had close to 100 calls for service in the 4 schools. Now, those calls of service can be anything from a larceny to a bullying issue that she's dealing with to a lockout in the parking lot. But she's handling these calls. So that's not including the Alice trainings, the alert trainings, and the training we did yesterday. Did you?
I did not. Sure, and I can certainly chime in. You bet.
So yesterday we had a training and it was all the administrative council and it was here at this police station and Dr. Wazinski actually put the whole thing on. We had NEMLEX SWAT, NEMLEX STARS, myself, Detective Sergeant Fernandez, a couple of the chiefs from the area that are in charge like CISM, response and whatnot. And there's a lot of acronyms, but I apologize for that. If there's any questions, shoot that. So what the tabletop exercise did was each school was given a scenario. And the administrators in each school had to handle the scenario and explain to them exactly what we did, what you would do in regards to these scenarios. You know, there could be an active shooter inside the school. There could be an unknown person outside the school. And how we gonna handle it and what can we learn from best practices for that. I'm gonna reach over to these 6 over here and it was just an amazing training that we learned a lot. We're ahead of the curve. I still feel we're ahead of the curve. But we still learn a lot that we can implement and we can do better at. So that's another thing next door. So my main goal for tonight is to beg and plead the school to add a second SRO. AC, you and I have talked about this millions of times. So the way I'd like to set this up is right now we have Detective Wazinski. And I'd like to keep Tech Luzinski assigned to the high school. And her second school would be the Shaker Lane School, for obvious reasons. Obviously, more calls for service at the high school than there is at Shaker Lane School, so she'd be able to go to Shaker Lane School when it's needed. The second SRO will be in charge of the entire Russell Street campus. Therefore, that person would be Officer Brian Jones, who's our part-time SRO right now. He'd be assigned full-time to the schools. And he would take on the role of both the Russell Street schools at that point. There's a lot of planning that we aren't doing and that we're lacking on. And that's going through the books and making sure that all of our doors and exit rates are locked, making sure they're all numbered, making sure the latest of the schools are there, making sure we have correct phone numbers for people in regards to who we call for gas things, who we call for watering things. Are all these numbers being hit, or are we rely on just calling dispatch solely and getting those words across? So there's a lot of planning, procedural things that need to be done that can't be touched upon by Meg right now because she's handling calls of service. So I think we probably need on the second SRO to do that a lot more. And I think it'd be very beneficial to the schools. What do I add? There you go.
Sure. Matt and I have had these conversations for a number of years, and until this year, we thought we were doing okay, but if, things were building up, our community is continuously changing. The resource officers provide a lot of support, not only to our students, but to our families that are struggling as well. And there's been an increase in the need for more coverage in that area. And as we all know, the problems that we're seeing in society in Massachusetts are definitely ramping up during the last 3-4 years. And schools are not exempt. We're part of the community, and what the community is seeing is what we see in our schools. So it is time that we do add a second resource officer. Visibility in the schools is important. Developing relationships with our students and families is important. Our public will continue to gain a better understanding that our police department is here to help. They're not just here to pull you over if you're speeding. They're a resource. And Meg is working really hard, and as a result of that, does not have the time to spend sufficient time to spend in our other 3 schools. A lot of her time is taken up at the high school, and the middle school has become a close second for her time as well. So I feel very strongly that this is the time, and we'd like to move forward and start a second SRO in January.
And 22 years ago, this position started, and it was made. And the things that have changed and evolved since like 22 years ago is just mind blowing. I used to handle discipline in high school. We can't do that sort of thing now. There's just so many things and so many changes that posts and regulations and accreditation that put, handcuffs on us that we have to make sure we're giving full attention. Basically, every call of service requires a report. So that everything's documented. That does take a lot of time. May leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but she logged on her computer Saturday by night, writing reports to make sure that if I get at 7 o'clock the next morning, I'm reading them. So I know what's going on. Yeah. So, yeah. Just I would consider it. And we have it all queued up, ready to go. So you guys say yes. Put the ground on it.
I know we've been talking about budgeting for the next fiscal year.
Mhm.
We've talked about adding this position as early as one officially.
Mhm.
I noticed that there's not a vote on the agenda.
Right.
We don't meet until after 1/1. Ultimately, would the school department like a vote from the school committee on this? If so, we can have one tonight, even though it's not on our agenda. It's the addition of a staff person, which would fall under your purview.
Mhm.
If you're looking for, informal head nodding or questions, we can certainly give that to you.
I think in this case, because we are adding a staff member. It's in, it's operational. We are able to pay for this individual within our current budget. I think just a head nod and any questions that you have would be sufficient. Yes.
I probably should know this. So the current resource officer, that's completely under the school committee budget?
No,
No, it's
the,
never been in the school.
no,
That's what I
Police
thought.
department,
Police department.
Okay, so then the second one would be in the school committee budget.
Right.
That's the thing.
yes.
Okay,
There's some history here too.
yeah.
Many years ago, we all had a real tough budget year. And we were splitting the cost of the resource officer between the police department and the school department. So we're faced with cutting close to $500,000 off our budget. Our out of district sped costs were increasing by 400 or 500 by itself. So we ended up cutting some staff, and as a result, we had to recommend to cut the resource officer as well. Chief Kelly at the time advocated to keep the resource officer and pick up the full tab. So this is our time to repay the favor that happened many years ago.
We talked to FinCom, and select board, I don't know, I know we don't need their permission.
Right.
But in the spirit of collaboration,
Well, my job as a superintendent is to talk to the administration of the town, and they're fully aware of it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nobody that's been an elected official in this town in the last 7 years that haven't been involved in a discussion about adding a second resource office. It's been, conversations have been plentiful during that time, so I would be very surprised if they didn't know this was coming.
so going forward so we'll have two SROs, would one be funded from the town side and one funded from the school side?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I just want to say I really appreciate you staying on top of this. I know you've been pushing for it for a while, and it seems like now is the time that everything's falling into place. And I appreciate the data points that you have too, because I think that's really impactful and really what we've needed to see how busy Meg is and how stretched thin she is within the schools. And obviously the kids' student safety is the utmost importance. And you've been recommending this for a long time now. And it seems like we, are getting much closer to that, but that wouldn't be without you continuing to push it through. So thank you. I appreciate it.
I have no concerns. It sounds like, it works within the budget, that we're comfortable with it. This is a long time coming. We've had these conversations for years, certainly. And just appreciate Officer Meg holding down the fort until we're able to get some support in there,
Yes.
hopefully.
Yeah. And I really wish you guys could have taken part in the table like that, at least one of you, because she knocked it out of the park, and I did get that.
She did.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
she did a great job.
She did.
I think we got invited to the next one. She didn't want us there for the first
She
one.
did,
Yeah,
technically.
that's when we actually do the active shooter in the school and dress up for them.
And they we trust. Yeah, no, this all sounds good. I love the proactive approach, and I appreciate your consistency with this topic. I wouldn't certainly want to be adding a second school resource officer in response to something that has happened. I hope that we never need the emergency response that
That's on my star, Justin. You're.
that you folks offer, but I was thinking about this as you were speaking, like, the early literacies, like community heroes, and police is certainly one of those. And then you get into real curriculum, and you don't oftentimes get like an opportunity to have a relationship with the police force, and this provides us that opportunity, which I think is truly powerful. So I love everything about it. Great. So we've heard from all the school committee members, and this is a great idea.
Perfect. Thank you. Just one more comment about our table talk exercises yesterday. Two of our police chiefs that were in attendance had actually had incidents in their school district. One ended, they both were something that we all don't want to talk about, but they went through it. And it's a humble reminder that these districts or towns are not dissimilar from ours. You would have never thought anything would have happened in those towns. So for me as a superintendent, I mean, I've seen some things in my career that just come with the job as being a superintendent, but for the rest of the administrative team to be involved in those discussions and hear the chiefs talk about their particular situations, it's very powerful. And it helps us, be able to talk with an expert that actually has been through something and point out, things we're doing well and give us suggestions. We want to keep our campus, our schools as safe as we possibly can. The only way we can do that is to keep reviewing what we're doing, reflecting, and bring in experts like that have some experience to make sure that we're not missing anything. So if I have my wish comes true, I'd like to do that every year. Just to keep us current and change the scenarios up and I think it would be helpful to all parties.
And the training yesterday was with the new protocol, it wasn't the Alice protocol?
No, it was with the Alice protocol. Police officers have not been trained in the alert protocol yet.
Oh, okay.
The lower new protocol, we just found out yesterday is actually things being made to online, which will make it a lot easier to get more than just one instructor in the class.
And so when is the date that we're planning to shift over to the new protocol?
We're not changing.
It's like so far in the future that
Yeah.
we haven't planned that out yet.
Sure.
We have to wait for the training council actually find the curriculum for us to actually do to actually roll out.
Okay.
Thought I remember hearing that it was like the beginning of next school year.
Yeah, more than
Yeah, you like those odds?
that. I do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I
We
appreciate
could
it.
Okay, thanks so much.
finalize the position.
Done.
All right.
All right, a number of presentations to get through, first of which is Athletic Director Mike Glenn. Give an update on Littleton Public School athletics. Good evening, Mr. Lynn.
Good evening, thanks for having me. For us, the
I got it, hold on.
show.
Yep, it's coming. There it is.
All right. Next slide, please.
Trying.
So we're week and a half into the winter season, all wrapped up on Thanksgiving officially with the final, event being a football game. Just for probably some new people in the room, we have 9 sports in the fall. Not gonna read this verbatim. I know that it's, I think you have eyes on this prior to the meeting, right? Because it's in your packet, so probably taking a look at this, but we have 9 sports, 17 teams, 262 athletes, and we played over 200 contests in the fall. Fall participation, for me, for most athletic directors, what we do always starts with participation. We want to get as many students involved in our athletic program as possible. We have certainly have sports that lend themselves well to mass participation, and we have sports that don't allow that. But in Littleton, we're fortunate that we don't really, we only have cuts in boys basketball most years. So the numbers you see there, every student athlete came out for a sport, had a place to play in the sport that they chose to play. We're fortunate in a town like Littleton that we can strike that balance. So you can see the numbers there. Some of those numbers are down a little bit from what we'd like to see. Girls cross country is down a little bit. Hopefully it rebounds. Football is definitely down from where we were, not that long ago. But soccer numbers are very high, very strong. And unified basketball, I have a slide coming up about that, so I don't really want to touch upon that just now. So we'll move to the next slide. In the middle school, in the fall, we have the most sports that we offer at the middle school level of any season. So we have 5 sports. Basically we have everything but football and cheerleading and golf as far as fall sports for them that match back to the high school. A lot of these sports are somewhat redundant to what these kids are also participating in at the town level or maybe the club level. So sometimes you see middle school students playing on a school team in addition to a non-school team. But, again, participation was strong. I think we did need cuts in boys and girls soccer, unfortunately, but that's just, the middle school level sometimes we do that. Next slide, please. Just some records here, if you're interested in that, as far as how our fall teams did, I only offer the records of the varsity teams, because that's really the only ones that we would, if you ever want to see the records for all of our teams, they're on the athletics website, but, here's our varsity records. Next slide. So our unified sports, we have a unified program for every season. Basketball, we had the most participation yet with 17 students being involved. A lot of fun. I think most administrators came to at least one game, if not two, of our season. It's really unified sports has been something that was new, at least in this, to us in this area, not that long ago, and now it's become commonplace. And we have a bowling team. I think we're the only school in our league that does an official bowling team, so kind of proud of that. But most schools in our league do have basketball. Next slide. Boys cross country repeated as sectional champions. So proud of them for that. Girls soccer's on quite a roll. I think this is their third league championship in a row. And the last 2 years prior to this one, they went to the Final Four. This year they made it to the round of 8, which was down in Cohasset, which was an absolute nightmare to get to. I don't know how many people are familiar with the South Shore, but I had to get down here. We went down there for 6 o'clock. I sent the bus at 3 o'clock, and I thought, there's no way. And, I know we're in for trying to get down to Cohasset for a 6 o'clock game, but we made it just in time. And I survived the drive as well. And anyways, that was the end of the road for us down in Cohasset. But anyways, South Shore is not for me. Would not be a place for my list to live. Not hope I don't offend anybody. But we often have more student athletes in this signing. NLI signing day would be for Division I or Division II. But Brooke O'Brien signed for lacrosse at St. Anselm. We do have some other signings potentially coming up. I'll put those on the next presentation, but as of right now, we've got one. Next slide. I know I've been putting this in the presentation. I just want to keep everybody well informed on our 2 feature facilities. There is some new information. Alumni Field, we have played 15 seasons on that field so far. It opened in fall of 2017, which I still remember that night. I think a lot of us were there, and I can't believe it's 15 seasons ago that we did that. But our 7-year warranty ended this September. I did have some warranty work done on the field this fall that, obviously was free of charge. But from this point forward, anything that we deal with on that field would cost us some money. The only thing that we've dealt with, honestly, out of 15 seasons, all those lines you see, those are seams. And they did the installers did an amazing job. But we've had a few splits in the seams, and they just come and I've done some repairs, and then also the AstroTurf has done some repairs. But that's the only thing that really we've had to deal with. The field has performed incredibly well, the drainage, everything about it. But those are the types of things you see with the amount of wear and tear we put on it. You might start to see some splits in the seams that are easily repaired, but you have to keep up on it like anything else. Next slide. So Steve and I have already started dialogue about this. I believe Kelly's also CC'd on some communications we had. With the track at the age it's at, it is due for a resurface as of 2026. That would be the 10-year point. And then at 20 years, you need more substantial work. But the track is performing incredibly well for us as well. But it is coming up on a substantial maintenance item. We have started getting preliminary estimates on what that would cost. And I believe there's talk about combining efforts with Park and Rec and other funding sources, the CPC, which sounds like it might make sense. And the other thing I want to talk about here is, we have that, the grass actually is in much better shape than we had this aerial shot done. So that doesn't look so great. That was after like a terrible drought summer, but the field looks great, looks better than what you're seeing there. What you don't see on that slide is there is a pole vault venue in the nearest D area, right by the starting line. And when we did that, we did it after the fact, but it has the box. We have the landing system, but what we don't have is a plexi-track runway. So when we do this resurface, we should absolutely incorporate, it's literally just spraying the rubberized surface on top of the pavement that you see in front of that high jump, rectangle. So that would be something I would highly recommend. The other thing that I know that the track coaches are advocating for is a javelin venue. That's a whole other thing that we would want to talk about and decide if that's something we would do at this point. But the pole vault runway is that's something we've been waiting on. Right now, we have a rolled out rubber runway, which isn't great, but, so we're working on that. Just want to make sure everybody's aware of, that. The winter athletics, like I said, I'm sorry.
I would just curious, do we have javelin now?
Oh, yeah, we have javelin. We throw, did you move that? We throw right in the middle right now.
Okay.
We used to throw, you can't really see, but in the outfield of Whitcomb.
Yep.
But we've been using that baseball field because of the construction, so we really can't do that. So what we have to do in the bottom left corner there, that's where the discus cage is. So that throws out into the infield. So we just time it up that I want to say discus and shot are going on, and then once discus wraps up, we start throwing the javelin in the middle.
Okay.
Where they would like to put a javelin venue, I think I need to come up here and just go on it. Where they'd like to put a javelin venue is up in here. And the runway would be here and then it would throw out into here. I don't really know enough about that land. I've told the coaches that would require probably more,
Site work?
yeah, I think we have to look, and I do believe the town owns the land. I'm not sure about, is it deemed wetlands, all that kind of stuff. But it would be ideal, it would be safer, than throwing it inside the oval. Would be safer to have it out there, and you could have everything going simultaneously as opposed to like, probably just stagger it now. But I want to be clear, we make it all work just fine, but in a perfect world, the javelin venue would be probably outside the oval. Winter athletics, we have 12 sports. And when I say we have 12, we have six under our roof, and we're fortunate to have 6 co-ops. We built those up over the years, and we've been fortunate to keep them in place. People should know that co-ops are not a guaranteed entity that will go on forever. They're approved every 2 years. It requires some votes and things of that nature, and some data collection. And then we hope to sustain them and hope that the numbers will be favorable, that we'd be able to have the co-ops. Everybody should know that a co-op can only be installed and maintained or sustained because the host school has the need, not because the guest school wants a place for their students to play a certain sport. Because I often get people asking me, hey, my son or daughter has an interest in this, and it doesn't really work like that. It's mutually beneficial to usually both schools, but the host school has to have the need for participation in order to sustain their programming. So in our case, we're fortunate. Sport like girls ice hockey, prior to getting that up and running, I think we're year 7 or 8, girls would have to play on our boys team. And that had obvious safety risks, obviously. And so once we were able to get Westford Academy on that was great for our girls. I'll show you the participation numbers on the next slide. We have swimming and diving with Bromfield. The Bromfield, we return the favor to Bromfield. Their boys play ice hockey for us. The alpine skiing, again, Lunenburg's numbers were down. It was a window of opportunity for us to join and provide that for our student athletes, and then gymnastics. So with the co-ops, we have like basically every winter sport there is. And then the unified bowling, like I already mentioned. So we have 11 Littleton Public Schools teams. We have 17 total, and we have 202 student athletes. Next slide, please. So you can see our winter participation there where we're at. Basketball numbers are strong. Boys indoor track numbers are, we're really strong in the running sports right now. And Casey Caldenberg in particular is just an amazing coach, and his participation numbers show that. You can see our boys ice hockey already mentioned. Actually, we take in Parker as well. So we have 30 participants, 18 from Littleton. This is a perfect example of what I was talking about. 18 skaters in a hockey program would be, could you do it? Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to have JV. You wouldn't be able to really have any injuries. It'd be tricky. But you add 9 on field, 3 Parker, and in specialty sports like ice hockey, it really works. We have seven girls playing over WA. We have 6 kids swimming and diving, 5 alpine, and 2 doing gymnastics. And bowling, we're getting that up and running after the holiday break. In the winter for middle school, we only have boys and girls basketball. I showed you in the fall we have 5 sports for them, but in the winter we only have 2. Winter's a challenging season. It's all facility driven and it's tricky. Like even our indoor track program at the high school, it seems a little chaotic daily with everything that's going on in the building, with them in the gym and the weight room and the auxiliary gym and the hallways and the parking lot. But that's how we make it work, and then we go to facilities that have indoor tracks. I wanted to include this. I think I don't even really like acknowledging COVID, but sometimes I have to. That it definitely had an impact while we were going through it, but we're still feeling that. And our participation rate used to be 68, 69%. I was always like, man, I just want to hit 70%. And we just seemed like we're always 1 or 2 percentage points away from that. And then obviously 1920, there was no spring season, took a major hit. The next year was a 4-season year. We were still in the 59. Rebounded 63, 62. Right now we're down as much as 9% last school year from pre-COVID numbers. So hopefully those numbers continue to rebound or rebound in the years to come. But right now those numbers are, our overall participation is down from pre-pandemic. Just figured I'd show you that. All right.
Is that a percentage of the student body, or if you're playing multiple sports, are you being counted 2 or 3 times?
So that is the count of how many of our students play at least one sport.
Okay.
So,
Kind of the student body plays a sport.
yeah. So, we have a total count and we have an actual count, whatever you want to look at that. So I draw that data at the end of every school year and create a report and just shows participation by every sport, shows our student participation overall, like how many of our students played at least one sport during that school year. It'd be interesting. I only really focus on the athletic piece. It'd be interesting probably to look at the student body beyond athletics and then see how many are involved with drama, music, and things of that nature. And then what's our true percentage that doesn't do anything beyond the school day, doesn't engage in co-curriculars at all. I don't necessarily draw that data, but I draw the athletics data.
Are you noticed? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's what-
You raised your hand.
Quick question. Has there been interest in, or have we considered volleyball?
So we have I think I probably didn't include that actually. I forgot to include that field hockey as of this year, because our numbers in field hockey have been dropping. We have an active co-op with Air Shirley in field hockey, which only resulted in 1 new girl. And we have an active co-op in girls volleyball. And we thought that was going to work out just fine. But then as Air Shirley started during the sign-up phase in the spring, we were on track. But then as they got closer to the season, they had some new kids show interest. And it has to do with the markings on their gym floor. But I just had another talk with Steve Kendall, who's the AD over there. And I'm going to pick that up again. We're hoping that we are going to be able to send student athletes to them this fall. So in volleyball, he has varsity and JV1, but if we were over there, he'd also have enough to have a JV2 team. But right now they don't have the cross volleyball courts on their floor. But he told me in my last meeting with him that it looked like they were going to approve getting those cross volleyball courts painted. Because they need that so they can play the JV1 and the JV2 games simultaneously. And then when they get to the varsity game, they're playing on a main court. So if he gets that, we're going to be fine, and we're going to be able to send pretty much as many student athletes that are interested. Personally, I don't think I know there's been talk of volleyball, to have a strong volleyball program. I don't know that we're there yet, and I would definitely be worried that, I'm showing these numbers and certain sports have been impacted. We're not filling up, particularly on our girls' side, we are not filling up our rosters on our girls' sports. We don't have a JV field hockey team, we don't have a JV girls lacrosse team, and our JV softball team is primarily middle schoolers. So I would hesitate to add another girls' team sport when we're not filling up the ones that we have right now. I'd like to see that participation come back in those sports. And what we're seeing isn't unique to Littleton. Our league is seeing this a lot in certain sports. So, but hope, as my last thought was he was very hopeful that he was going to be able to allow participation from our girls. Like I say, the co-op is there, it's active, it was approved. It just, they couldn't take us this past fall.
Yeah.
That would definitely be the best way to phase in a volleyball team,
Yeah,
is to
that
get
makes sense.
kids playing competitive real volleyball at another school.
Yeah.
Because right now, I think our kids have probably played recreation volleyball, but competitive volleyball is a different,
It's a whole different animal.
it's a whole different animal. And there's, instead of like just two rows of players, like they have positions and things of that nature, and they have tacticals, and there's a lot to know and a lot to do. And I do think it's probably, if you look at our sport offerings, it's probably boys and girls volleyball, probably like the two we don't have, honestly.
Yeah.
But boys volleyball in our league anyways is only about 6 or 7, so 26 schools. With the top school being Wachusett, that's over 2,000 students. So only about, I think it's like 7 or 8 schools have boys volleyball. And about half of our league has girls volleyball, with Air Shirley being really the only small school that has it. The next school after Air Shirley is like Hudson and above. So that's why Air Shirley, I think why we got the co-op approved, is they were able to say, hey, we've struggled to be competitive because we're playing primarily larger schools. Littleton would give us a boost, and then they had some more students come out for the team. So they weren't able to take us, but like I say, if they get that second court configuration painted, and they can go JV1 and JV2, there'd be plenty of room for pretty much any student that wants to join and get playing competitive volleyball.
Want to do a demo with maybe on the email?
Vol-
Why not? Yeah, we'll get the girls all excited.
I didn't volunteer for that.
Question about something you said earlier, the decline in interest in football, and are you noticing a trend that soccer is increasing while football is decreasing, or is it not that clear?
There's definitely ebbs and flows to everything we do. I've been at Littleton now, this is my 24th year at Littleton. I've been the athletic director for 20. So yes, when football had really high participation numbers, we peaked out at about 60 players. That was well over 20% of, almost hovering around 25% of the student body. The soccer numbers weren't where they are now. And so, yeah, we definitely see that if soccer has strong numbers, maybe football doesn't have so strong numbers. We're definitely very concerned about football. I've been keeping Stephen Kelly and John and all the middle school as well informed about where we're at with that. And we definitely had some meetings after the football season with our students in high school and prospective students in the middle school to just see where our interest is, because we have looked at co-oping in that sport. It's not something we want to do. That would really, for me, that would be very hard. I was the head coach here for 20 years. I've been on it for 3 years, but Littleton's had its own football team since 1965. So if you lose that brand and that identity, it's going to be hard to get it back. And as far as, and I know some people might have different feelings about the sport of football. I know it's a very violent and rough sport, but no sport is an event like a Friday night football game is, or a Thanksgiving Day football game. It's the amount of people, the cheerleaders, the band. You've seen 3 different student groups there between cheerleaders, football, and band, and just the community, not just parents. So hopefully we can get back on track there. But yeah, we're definitely not at, where we were at one point.
But soccer is definitely increasing over the years.
Soccer right now is definitely, very, strong participation and looks poised to be in a good place for years to come. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the plan with the football team? I mean, what do you need to happen to run a football program next year?
Well,
You know, we all been to a number of games. There's like 12 seniors, you know, pictures on the fence. And we know those kids are graduating. We're looking at kids on the sideline and we're like, I don't know if there's enough people.
yeah, it's a great question. We're actually graduating 13 seniors
Yeah.
off a 32-man roster.
Wow.
Held a meeting during the last week of the season with the current players, told them we're having a meeting in 1 week after Thanksgiving to see what other students you might have in the current high school population that maybe is thinking about playing next year. Also went down to the middle school, the head football coach, your son was there, held a meeting for all 6th, 7th, 8th graders.
Did you get out of class to go to a meeting?
I was during flex. So flex just works for us. So, we held a meeting with all 6th, 7th, 8th graders, and all I asked them to put in the announcements was any student who has an interest in playing the sport of football, please attend this meeting. We just wanted to meet the kids, see what was potentially coming up. Football is definitely a sport that needs pretty strong numbers. I would tell you that I think that 40 players is that's where you can have a varsity and a JV program. We haven't had JV in 2 years, so now you're not really getting that developmental, that you would see through JV participation, particularly in a sport like that. We played 2 JV games this year, when we had opportunity to do so. So, yeah, so we're definitely working on it, and definitely, Park and Rec has a strong flag program right now. The participation is up, but the youth football is really down. Yeah, so it's definitely something that we're working on.
So as of last night, we created a Park and Rec flag board,
Okay,
to try to continue to bring improvements to that. My impression, flag football, I think, number one, I think football is a great sport,
Yeah.
terrific community event. I think flag football is a great sport. I'm not sure that you're gonna get, the crossover, like you might hope. Maybe you will, you'll probably pick up a few kids.
yeah,
But I'm just, I think parents see flag football as an alternative to the concussions that can come with, can come with any sport.
Yeah.
But, the NFL had some tough years with concussion, and that trickled all the way down to youth sports, I believe.
right. No, definitely,
Sure.
And, I think it's awesome that you guys had the meeting. It was funny, Henry did come home. He's like, I went to the football meeting.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, really? Cool. So if you had, X number of kids turn out for the meeting, hopefully you get a couple, but I think maybe a lot of flag football kids were there or kids who play other sports. I don't know that they're gonna be putting the pads on.
right. That's the tricky part, for sure. And the 8th grade numbers, I think there was 8 8th graders at the meeting. There was only 2 7th graders, but there was 23 6th graders. So, and that is somewhat indicative of the age and everything. They're like, oh, I want to go to the meeting, but, but I will say that group of kids that we're talking to seemed very excited, and, it was a good meeting. We're just trying to see if we have a path forward. I think as of now, the plan is, the reason why this was time sensitive is because this is a realignment year. And I'm actually going to a meeting on Wednesday where we'll be building football schedules. And I was trying to just make everybody's life easier, I guess, on our schedule by, we were not going to be able to continue. The right thing to do was to basically drop out of the scheduling pool. And, there have been preliminary talks about a Littleton Air Shirley merger in the sport of football. But, as of now, that would result in an Air Shirley host Littleton, yes. And, I think you're gonna see then you'd see further fall off of kids, because now let's say you have a 9th or 10th grader who can't drive, out of how mom or dad, maybe you're working, get him over there daily to practice over there. So we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to keep it going. You never know, 5 to 10 years, you could have 40, 50, 60 kids playing again. You just don't know. I mean, We have the facility for it, obviously. We've had it for a long time. We have everything in place. We just don't have the participation numbers at, the last few years.
In all of the co-op sports, we're the guest. Are the students responsible for their own transportation? Like if we have a number of girls playing with Westford Academy,
Yeah.
they're not going to WA, they're going to some rink somewhere.
Yeah.
But are they on their own where Westford Academy is potentially being bused to practice?
I don't know of anybody that buses the practices, so it would basically be
They're
the
all on their
same.
own?
Yeah, so hockey's hockey, high commitment parents, high commitment sport, gonna do anything that it takes to play hockey. 6 a.m. practice, where they, there. So that's a different, and because the rinks are all neutral sites anyways, it doesn't matter if you're really, in our case, Littleton or Harvard kids, they're probably all driving the same, it's over at Groton School. You got like swim dive, again, it's at a pool off site. Gymnastics is at a gymnastics gym, and ski is at a mountain. So the co-ops that we do have, it doesn't matter if you're the host or the guest, because you're all going to some neutral site place, some off-site location. Again, field hockey, we might have seen more girls come over for our field hockey, but maybe only one was able to, maybe it was only one who was interested, or maybe it was only one who was interested and also could facilitate the transportation to get there daily. Because, it's not feasible to get one girl from here to Littleton for field hockey.
Right.
Yeah, so, and if we move forward with volleyball, it's going to be transportation on your own. There's no way we could do it. Transportation, and forgive me, Justin, you keep asking me questions, so I'm gonna keep going. I don't wanna take the but
Couple more minutes.
all right, a couple more minutes, all right, so, we're pretty fortunate, we're in a good situation with our transportation with D-Bus. Some other school districts, it is absolutely, it is devastating, they just can't move their teams. There's a certain bus company I won't mention that they don't provide buses for their schools. And then it has a trickle-down effect of impacting, say, us, if we're playing them and they have to get to us. We have to move around the games sometimes. I'm playing middle school games, so we played middle school soccer games at 5 o'clock, when the light was still there, because, school couldn't get there for the whole time. So, but yeah, so transportation is tricking up as just moving the teams, never mind trying to move like, co-op student athletes to, but in a perfect world, yeah, you'd be able to do that. So,
And the plan is with this would be like the spring 26 season, the baseball would be at the new facility. Tennis would be at the new facility, spring 26.
yeah, great question. That all passed at town meeting, and, using CPC funds, and, we'll still be playing at the Wickham Field this spring.
But not-
It won't be
No
the full,
improvements,
what it's
yeah.
going to be, yeah. So if you look at Jet Field, just kind of picture that as a baseball field, and that's what you're gonna have there. And then tennis, the tennis courts will sit beside the gym, there'll be 4 courts plus a small field. And then the school department has already, renovated the high school tennis courts, and I believe there's 4 pickleball courts there now, right? As part of that, so, which is kind of exciting because pickleball is, I think it just keeps growing, so I think once those are online and available to people, I think I'm interested in it, so.
Are there any high school that have pickleball yet?
So it's funny you ask, that was a proposal for a rule change to add,
Sure.
pickleball as an official MIA sport. It didn't make it. But it's come up the last 2, we do rule changes, I don't know if it's every 2 or 4 years, I can't remember if we do them, MIA level. But it's come up the last 2 rule change proposals pickleball has, and I think people are just like, we probably shouldn't add yet another sport. But it's definitely,
A lot of fun.
yeah. We'd be in good shape for it. We have 4 courts, if they ever had it.
Just
I
to
don't know
be
what
clear, the
season we're
4
in.
courts, you have to supply your own net, but
Yeah, that's the part, yeah,
they have portable nets. You just get a portable net, set it up, but the
Right.
lines and stuff are there,
right.
just to be clear.
It'd be good if we moved to a level where the courts, those nets are just on the side of the court. You can just roll them on or play tennis or play pickleball, but we'll have to maybe, look at that, but,
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update.
Thank
you.
Thanks for the information.
Really appreciate it.
Really want to see Uncle Mike do his, job, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Next up, presentation number 2, we've got the special education MCAS update. Director of Student Services, Lynn Snow, will provide an update on the special education MCAS results, I suppose, or the deeper dive.
Deeper dive, yes.
Right.
Thank you. Just to start, I'd like to introduce that our whole special education leadership team is here this evening and thank them for being here tonight. Margaret Deslitz is our student services liaison. So she joined us this year. Allison Gilman is our special education administrator for the elementary grades. And Michael Jarvis is our special education administrator for the middle and high school grades.
They work hard.
For the presentation, we're going to provide a brief review of the data, given that the principals have already presented on the school data inclusive of the special education subgroup, and then we'll share some next steps. I just want to share a few limitations of the data set before I hand this. I'm actually going to hand this over to Michael Jarvis, who's going to take us on a deeper dive. But I just want to make sure that you have an understanding that the performance of students with disabilities should only really be compared against their individual performance. That being said, I do think it can be very informative and educative to an exercise to look at the data and draw some takeaways. Because we do want to know how our students with disabilities are performing on this standardized measure. And we want to be able to use that data to inform our instructional practices. A few limitations to call your attention to are that we do have a very small sample size given the size of our district. So looking at the aggregate data can be challenging. It needs to be interpreted with caution. And we're also certainly in the sunset of the after effects of COVID. That students are going to continue to be impacted by the pandemic for the next several years. So as we look forward, we need to continue to consider the next steps that are going to accelerate the student growth. So I'll encourage you to listen closely to Michael's talking points related to student growth percentiles and understand that scaled score is a data point that we use only to compare a student's performance against their own performance. It's not a data point that we should use to compare an individual student on an IEP against a group. But having said that, it's helpful for us to look at that performance over time so that it is included. The special education leadership team did a really great job digging into the data. This is something that we do every year. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Michael, our special education administrator, to take us into the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, hold it down. Evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come up and present what I hope to be context to special education. A point Lynn made, and actually Mike Lynn had made, is referencing pre-COVID, the period where we were before everything kind of fell apart, and are we back? Where are we? Just some context. So in moving through this, perfect. Next one. As Lynn said, we're going to highlight student growth percentile because that compares students to their individual scores to their own growth, but we do have the metrics that we look at across all MCAS and scaled score, which is their individual outcome, as well as percent meeting and exceeding. But this table and graph depict where we were pre all the way through the journey to where we are now. And the hope is that you'll see the visual progress that we've made. So you don't just see numbers in isolation and think, well, that doesn't look like the rest of the district. What's the problem? But actually, where we're going is on par with the rest of the district. When you look at a student body as a general population with general education, our subgroup of special education does have more challenges, however, is making progress. And in some cases that you'll actually see here, more rapid progress. So this would be our ELA across the entire district. And you can see the numbers from the district, which is the gray line. You wanted to see that check mark formation, the dip of that obviously being that the pandemic time, and then the time coming out of that is where we actually want to see the blue line, which is students with disabilities identified in isolation of their scores, to the total district, which is the gray line. So you can, the next two slides will just be the same ELA points with different metrics. So scaled score, you go to the next one, you'll see individual scaled scores, and you can kind of see that
there's still that same pattern. So again, we're following the same trajectory that the general population in the district is. And percent meeting, this number is always going to be the biggest gap, right? When you think of passing the MCAS, it's actually partially meeting and beyond to earn that diploma. So this really is an unfair metric for special education because we still were achieving successful outcomes, but this metric won't highlight that. But it's something that we're still internally as a department working towards closing the gap. The next 3 slides will be commensurate, so pause here, Steve, but I'll just say the next 3 slides are going to be the math version. And this is grades 3 through 10. So it doesn't indicate science because that's an even smaller outlier. It's only the grades 5, 8, and high school. But if you look at this really quickly, you can see that the top line is our district metric numbers. So we pulled these to indicate the percent of the district that is meeting, exceeding the average SGP, right? So the individual student growth measured by their scores the previous year. We're actually showing that we're really making progress in that area at a really, really high clip, commensurate of what the general population, the general student body is performing at. So again, a little bit of context, and when you look at special ed in isolation, you see students with disabilities at a lower score, doesn't actually mean it's not as low or on a different trend than where we are at as a district. That's the big point the data kind of reveals, is that numbers aren't necessarily crises, but we're actually moving in a good direction as far as stability and recovery from where we are. So this is ELA breakdown by grade. Now we'll move into math. This one is even has an even more positive kind of bend. And even though you see a little bit at the end that eyeing, but the progress coming in has been much quicker to get back to the same level of progress. And this again is that student growth percentile, student performance measured year to year over students who scored in that certain score getting to, did they show growth year over year? And so this is for math, we're happy to see that that came back. We obviously want to close that continuously, but in relation to general education, again, not so far off as far as the progress relative to the student. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can go through the next 2 again. It's scaled score, and you can see the trend line there again, and student percent meeting and exceeding. It's the wider gap, but it's still a pretty consistent trend. We can jump to the next one. And then this one again, so for math, you'll see the district numbers across the top, and you'll see where they're at with average SGP and average scaled score. And you can see down the list by grade where some of the strengths lie, some of the weaknesses may lie, but we're able to jump in and provide some grade level based intervention support for those levels as needed. And cohorts are kind of reflective. You'll see over years, if there was a cohort that seems to struggle, that's generally going to reflect year after year as we go forward. But the highlight of what we just compared was, again, to Lynn's point, the caveat, you never want to compare a student with a disability to a general education performing student. What we want to look at is trends, and our students with disabilities are trending at the same or as close to the same levels that our general ed population students are trending now 3-4 years removed from COVID. That's not going to end what our hopes are of bridging that gap, right? And there's still work to do there. And I'll turn it back over to Lynn to kind of talk about what our numbers look like compared to the state, which is a little bit more equitable student with disability to student with disability comparison. But as far as this analysis, it was within our district, students with to students who are general performing. So hopefully you see that we're actually on a pretty good trend towards recovery commensurate with the district.
Thank you.
Sure. Before we lose you, can we just jump back 1 slide just so I can add?
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to take we're gonna take a little dive back to the student growth percentile for ELA. Like if we can move back to
Sure,
to
we
that
can go
slide.
there.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll answer my question.
One more back, Steve.
There we go. So when we're looking at student growth percentile, which is the most important metric we want to look at when we're talking about students with disabilities, where we were in 2019, our student growth percentile was 42.6. And so now at 2024, our average student growth percentile is 53.8. So that's a really notable, nice, point to highlight. So I want to highlight that, and then I want to bring us to our math SGP overall, so we can. Couple more.
No, too far away.
There we go, that one. So we've seen not as much growth, but we've also seen from basically where we were at 2019, which is really that last year before that pandemic, that year that we all remember. And then the 2 years after that, 22 and 23 are also our recovery years. And so if we just look simply at the data point from 46.6 to 52.6, there's been notable growth. We want to keep seeing that number increase. But one thing that Mike shared, which I wanted to call attention to, is like, we see that check mark, we want to see that going back up in the same way. But if you notice, you see 22 and 23, we were really making some nice growth, but we're seeing that little piece of pie get a little bigger. We want to close that little alligator's mouth a little bit more. So that's something that we're going to be wanting to be monitoring closely over the next couple of years. So those are just two takeaways about ELA and math. Did you have a different question?
No, that's helpful. How high can an SGP be? And what is the difference between 99?
Yeah.
99?
Be it there, yeah.
But to have that, I mean, that's essentially how much progress you've made over 365 days, task to task.
Yeah, so when we think, and we're looking at all of our students on IEP, which is a continuum of students with a myriad of ability levels. And so seeing that kind of 50%, that's solid, that's good. I mean, I want to always be pushing that needle. That being said, we have, many students that are, that's our mean. So we have many students that their student growth, we could have a few students, if we drill down to the individual student level, that could have student growth percentiles in the 90s. We could also have several students that their student growth percentiles in the 20 and 30. So that's why when we're looking at students with a disability, we really need to look at it down to the individual level and see where they were. So if their student growth percentile was, let's say, 37% one year, we want to set challenging yet attainable goals for them each year so that we can accelerate that growth. But when we look at the 5,000 foot view, it's solid and we want to just keep moving in the right direction.
The way to think of percentile is like if you line up 100 kids, where do you fall out of that 100? So that's 1 to 99, so that's where we fall comparatively.
Just like I think Mike was saying, if he wants to get participation, he wants that 1 or 2%, get over that. I want to see that 52.8. I want to see us push that number higher. You never want to see that number go lower. So then what I'm going to do, if you can just bring us back to the statewide comparisons. I just want to touch briefly on this because only because what we're essentially doing when we're comparing student data for students with disabilities against our aggregate district data, it's in some ways comparing apples to oranges. But looking at our district subgroup, data can be helpful because now we're at least looking apples to apples. We're looking at students with disabilities against a larger subset of students with disabilities. What you can see is positive growth. And so there's our little alligator mouth, they're getting bigger. That's what we want to see. So when you look at that yellow line, that's Littleton, and that gray line is the state. And so we're seeing our growth and our recoupment post-pandemic is looking really good. Specifically with our student growth percentile, but also with our average scale scores. So we want to see those pieces of pie in the chart getting bigger, and that's what we're seeing here, even with the percentage of meeting and exceeding. And so you can go to the next slide. And we're seeing the same thing, as I said, with the average scale scores. You can move on to that. Next, and this is meeting and exceeding, same thing. And so as far as what we've drawn away is a few next steps. And so what we want to do is we want to continue to do an item analysis review, like I said, really drilling down to the individual student and look at areas of concerns with word problems, open response questions, because the open response questions can be a really area that can impact a student's score. So looking at what skills we need to be embedding and building individual student capacity, and then continue to look for PD opportunities for special ed staff that do provide them with opportunities to review and synthesize data, and also looking at diagnostic screening tools, curriculum-based measures, looking at intervention resources to support individualized instruction, and then continue to investigate research-based programs to maximize the instructional efficiency and targeted skill development in both mediums. And so that's.
When what, if we jump back a slide, what's the, what does the N stand for? And then I'm assuming the number is the number of students, but that doesn't seem right. So what are, on the, under the description?
Yep, so the N is for like the number of students who took MCAS. So in 2021, we had 119 students, because students in grades 3 through 8 and then 10 take MCAS. And so that's out of we have roughly about 300 students on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this, and then what's, so if we use that number, where were you?
100, I was looking at math in 2021, 119, and now.
What's the 18 number mean that? Under the 119?
In ELA. ELA 119 and then 18 in 2021.
18 and 20, sorry. Oh,
Yeah, like right where that cursor is, right? What's that 18 stand for?
see where it says N 119 students and then 18? 18 below.
49.
The 15%.
No, I don't know what you're looking, hold on, let me get, let me look.
So see, where is it N 119?
That's the number of
so-
students
so
that
it-
were, that must be the number of students in the population that were
Meeting and
meeting and exceeding. And that equals 15%.
Yes,
Yes,
percent is,
yes.
yes.
That's
You
right.
got it.
Just seeing.
There you go.
I'm glad I answered that question for you.
So if we were to look at that year across the state, 16% of students were meeting and we were 15, but if we were to jump to 2024, now we've got 18% of our students in the state's got 11.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
What I'd rather look at is,
With the other slides more than this one.
well, and I'm not so rather, let's highlight mathematics.
Yeah.
Look at in 2021, 10% to 2024, 21, where, if you compare that against the state group.
Doing great.
It's just, there's still a lot of work to do, and I think also another point to keep in mind too is over the past 4 to 5 years, more students have been with us in district. And so students with more needs, students with more complex challenges. And so while maybe that's gonna affect our scores, it's gonna affect our district in an incredibly positive way with regards to our inclusive practices.
So with students that have out of district placements, are they part of the Littleton aggregate, or do they get reported from the school that you're in?
So we actually, they are included. We use open architects to look at our data. We can pull like out of district students in and out. It's a very small number that doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem with a small district here,
Mhm.
the aggregate number is.
To answer your question on the data that we presented earlier, when we compared students with disabilities to general students in our district, we did it both with and without out of district students in that, and it actually very minimally affected the numbers. So you can assume that when we add in the few students for out of district to that, numbers don't really change the overall conference.
And I think I remember you saying in the last MCAS presentation that this was the first year you got reporting on students on 504s as a subgroup. Am I remembering that right?
Oh, we were able to differentiate, open architect, we were able to differentiate students on IEPs versus students.
It was just students with disabilities.
So did the data for students on 504s follow these same trends?
So that's reflective in the whole population, because students on 504 students receive a combination, students with disabilities on IEPs with special ed.
Just to highlight it, maybe can you go back a couple more slides to the map performance breakdown by grade? Yeah. Sure. So if we look at 10th grade, for example, we've got 15 students in total that were on an IEP that took this that took the MCAS, of those 15, 20% were meeting and exceeding, which doesn't sound good, but that's okay.
Except that partially meeting with an EPP also gets them to,
Yeah, I think that's
and when we're looking at a
kind of where I'm
group of
going.
15 students, and this is just like a hypothetical, if you have 5 or 6 of those students that are on an IEP, they may have an emotional disability, they may have significant challenges with executive functioning or the ability to take a standardized test, but their performance in classes could be really great, and it might not be representative of their true performance. And so when you're really only looking at 15 students, if you break that down to, like in my mind, when I'm thinking about why students are on IEPs, some of them have academic, many of them have academic needs, learning disabilities, some are on for social emotional, some are on for a variety of different, it makes it hard to interpret because our numbers are so small. But yes, that does mean 15 students and then 20% were meeting and exceeding.
But of the 15 students, the average score was 44.
And that's why we.
And you only
did
need
that.
to be at 500 to be
Right.
Yes, and
meeting.
that's one thing
And you
that the
would
high school
get the
does.
MCAS, if it was still a graduation requirement, you're somewhere you guys know the number, but it's somewhere between 470 and 500 that you need for the,
It's anything in the yellow up.
It's 470.
oh, it's 470, okay.
Right.
So these students, if they're partially meeting and getting an EPP, which means they have to continue to take a
Yeah.
course in that content area successfully, they're obtaining their diploma, they're meeting the requirement.
Yeah, so the average score is well within that
Yes.
monthly meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think this information is great that we shared it, because when we looked at it the first time, we just see really low numbers among the special education population of meeting or exceeding, and we
Right.
didn't get a chance to see how well this group's actually doing.
Right,
So this was nice for you to share.
right,
Details
because when we
behind
look at the no and the yes, so the no is students not on IEP, so the average scaled score for students not on IEPs is 509.
that. Right,
Oh, that's what the no is.
Yes,
Right.
not
Oh.
on the.
That's
right. This was helpful.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Paint a
Yeah,
very different
thank you
picture.
so much.
Thank you to everybody for digging the data out and presenting it in a fashion that we could comprehend.
And for all the work you do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Right. You ready, Steve?
Give me a second.
Gonna blow us away? All right,
Blow
the third presentation we have for this evening is the fiscal year 2025 proposed capital requests.
Can I flip it and do the financial report first and then go right into the capital
I'll
request?
allow it.
Is that all right?
Yes, I'll allow it. I'm just trying to keep it light. All right, so we'll go with the financial update first.
So there's a report, it's in your packet. Again, we're in good shape this year. So if you look at these numbers, you might say, hey, we're a little light on the expenditures so far year to date. This is through November, and we've only expended 28%. We're about 40% of the way through the year, so you'd think we'd be up in that neighborhood. So a couple of reminders. Teacher salaries, we withhold part of those teacher salaries and we pay those over the summer. That's about $2 million, 1.8, somewhere it fluctuates. So that's not reflected here. Special education out of district tuition. We charge that to circuit breaker first before we charge into the appropriated budget, because we have to spend those circuit breaker funds first before we dip into the appropriated budget. So that's a little underreported here. And then I noticed on the transportation side, I think we're a little behind in getting some invoices from our bus company. They're notorious for not invoicing us on a consistent basis, and sometimes we have to chase them down. But so that's a little underreported here as well. But so overall, we're still in good shape. We have enough money forecasted to meet all of our expenses through the year, including the new SRO officer that's included in our budget forecast as well. So we're in good shape financially for the year at this point in time. No big surprises yet.
Good to hear.
Any questions on that?
None for me. Anybody else?
All right, let me stop this and let me pull up. Let me pull up something else. So when it comes to capital, every year, we have to submit a 10-year capital plan, to the town, including what our request is going to be for, the upcoming, next fiscal year. So for this year, it's 2026. So, this report, is a 10-year summary. Little light on the year 7, 8, and 9, because I have a hard time thinking out that far on ahead and thinking about what's going to happen with facilities, and things like that. But, so, if we go down to the bottom, and I'll get into the projects, we'll see that for FY 26, we're asking for $1.4 million. That's a big number. It's probably honestly kind of unrealistic what we think we're gonna get from the town. But we want to make sure that the town is aware that we have some big capital projects coming. And so we include them in the request, and then we let the town figure out what they can afford and what we move forward with. So if it's okay, I'd like to go through what the projects are, just so you understand what they are. So hello, where is it? So at the middle school, so we're in the process now of replacing some rooftop units at the high school. We did one for the library a couple of years ago. We're replacing 3 of them on the high school this summer. We have the funding approved from the town for that. Been out to bid, contract's been awarded. At the middle school, we have a couple of rooftop units that are really kind of getting to the point where we need to replace them. So we're asking for the town for $225,000 in FY 26 to replace at least one of these units. It's a rooftop air conditioning unit, probably that does the library. We probably do that one first because there's more students in the library. We want to make sure that one is running efficiently. We're hoping possibly we might be able to, these are smaller units in the high school. So we're possibly hoping when we go out to bid, we might be able to get 2 units done for this price. We're still working with the engineer to come up with his estimate, but this will at least cover the 1 unit on the middle school to do the library. And then we have additional units to be replaced in the upcoming years at the middle school as well. So that's one project for $225,000. Back to the summary, the high school boilers. These boilers are original to the school. They're cast iron, big. You can see the pictures, how big they are. We've had some issues with the boilers over the years. We've had some sections, some cast iron sections develop cracks in them. And so we've had to replace those cracks, those sections. The problem is we can't find parts for these anymore. They're obsolete. The boilers are obsolete. The cast iron sections, you can't find them. The last one we found from our technician company, our service company, literally called us up and said, this is after 2 months of waiting. He said, we found one. It was in Leominster, I think. You have to decide right now if you want it. It was $10,000 for one section. So they're very difficult to come by. If we develop cracks in the boilers and they're bad enough and you have to shut a boiler down, obviously we lose heat in the building. So again, we're working with the engineers to come up with a comprehensive plan as to what's the best method to replace these. Do we do smaller condensing boilers? Or do we replace them with cast iron, similar boilers, but newer because they still make them? The $1 million is the right number because if you do with a smaller condensing boiler, you have to redo all the piping and stuff to go with it, things like that. So you had a question today?
Yeah, cause I think people in the town are gonna ask, have we reached out to, can you even put things like mini splits in a building that size? Can we convert to electric?
You could, it's not efficient.
Okay,
You could put mini splits that offer heat in the buildings, in the rooms as well. And in some rooms, we do have mini splits for air conditioning that some of them can do heat and some can't. So yes, that's an option, but it's not the most efficient, most effective way to do it.
just as a favor, when we do a presentation for the town, can we have some numbers to throw back out? When someone says, you know, why aren't we going green, et cetera?
Well, so I'm working with the engineer to come up with options. We're gonna look at electric options. We're gonna look at gas options.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna look at all those, working with the engineer.
That was, we had this discussion and I had a thought is like, you know, when we, especially when we go to the public. And when we're, you know, talking about how this is a need, just to cover, what bases can we cover?
Yes.
Right out of the gate
Yep.
and say, and I know
Yep.
you can do that.
Yeah, working with BLW engineers here in town.
Yeah.
This is what they do for a living, so
Awesome.
we rely on him and his expertise. But again, this is out there so that the town knows this is coming.
Yeah.
Whether it gets funded this year or next year, the town has to work out the financing. I want to make sure it's, front and center. This is something we need to look at.
Yeah. I like-
We're also going to look at potentially applying for MSBA funds. When we might be able to tie in requesting MSBA for the roof and the boilers at the same time.
Okay.
Not sure where that's going to go with MSBA, but we're looking at that option as well.
Thank you.
So the other two projects, quick projects. Mike Lynn talked about the track during his presentation. It's time to resurface the track. We did get one estimate from Cape and Island Track, who threw out the number of about $160,000. We have $40,000 already in school department gifts and donations account that the LTO donated, so we're sitting on those funds. So we're requesting $120,000. If we can work with CPC funds and get additional funding, that will either reduce the cost or we can possibly use those CPC funds to help do the Javelin area or something like that. So we haven't quite worked out all these details and I don't have those details. So my position here is I'm asking for the $120,000 to resurface the track portion because that's what we think we need. Anything else we get from CPC would be kind of over and above, and we'll have to modify the project as we move forward. So we're still working with the town and Ryan for our on availability of CPC funds to help fund the track. So that's where we're at with the track. Any questions on that?
LTO, Littleton.
Littleton Track Organization. Yeah, yeah, they do the Littleton Road Race every year.
Yep.
They also responded back and said they may have some additional funds to put toward this project. We're trying to figure out if they donate the funds to the town, who then can offset it and match it with CPC funds. We can maybe double that money or extend the LTO donation in addition to the $40,000 we already have. So we're still working out those details, but
Right.
from my point of view, from my ask, the 120 would cover the resurfacing of the track, because that's the important thing right now. Everything else we can do with CPC funds possibly and things like that. So that's my take on it.
Have you looked at the MOU we have with LTO yet? To review it, or?
Mhm.
We're doing, both parties are doing what they need to do
Yep,
in terms of donations.
and notifications, school committee would have to approve the use of the $40,000 and LTO would have to approve the use of the $40,000 to the track. And so we'll work through all those approval permissions as we get closer. So
When you quote track, would you just be sure to include that inside
Yes.
curbing that not,
the pole vault area?
No, just Mike brought to our attention, a meeting ago, the last time he was here, that that inside lane is crumbling.
Oh, yes. Yeah, well,
We
I
don't
think that's
have-
part of the resurface. They fixed that, so.
Just make sure it is, because we wouldn't want to resurface it and then have that inside lane crumble again.
Yep.
So it might be more than just resurfacing it. We don't have it on the current track, but Mike's point was it extends the life of that inside lane.
Yes, and I'm keeping Mike as the athletic director involved in this whole process.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then the last project. This is at Russell Street School. I'm sorry, the pictures are so small on the screen, but so we have, so there's a couple of things we need to do at Russell Street School. We need to resurface the playground area. Right now, we have bark mulch on there, which is not handicap accessible. So we're trying to make that playground handicap accessible for our wheelchair bound student at Russell Street School. So the plan is to smooth out the bark mulch, compact it, and then you put a rubber mat surface on top of it that makes it handicap accessible. So we're looking at that with the company, but we also have some sidewalk issues, some major cracks that we have to fix with some hot top issues. So we'd have to get a contractor in, tear that up, repave it, and things like that. We think that whole project is about $100,000. We have $45,000 left from a prior town article for sidewalk repairs and things. So what we're asking for is the additional $55,000 to make up that difference. So in a nutshell, that's the $1.4 million that we're asking. Those are the 4 major projects that are going on the capital request for the town. And then if you want to talk about future years, we can do that. High school roof is out there, middle school roof is out there, Russell Street roof is out there, identified in this document, so the town can make some long-term plans for capital planning.
So is your strategy here with, I see your priority column, that's really helpful with organizing this. So is your strategy just to ask for the funding for the highest priority and then the second highest goes into the following fiscal year and so forth? Is that how you're thinking of it?
No, it's not really set up that way. It's they have priorities on here. Their priorities are really designed around, is this a life safety issue? Is this a facility issue? Is this a request, like a want instead of a need kind of thing? That's what really their priority is on their spreadsheet. So I've tried to spread out their capital project based on the estimated useful life of the project or the unit or the rooftop unit or the roof and things like that. I've tried to spread that out. If you look out and I know it's not on here, 2028 or down the bottom here, 2029 and 2030, that's when we think we're going to hit the end of life on all of our touch view screens that we bought in all the classrooms. So I'm forecasting that out to replace those over a 2-year period. So we're trying to look at all those capital needs.
Yeah,
The capital
like
need,
FY28 is a doozy.
correct, it is.
Yeah,
Capital needs are anything over $15,000. So anything under $15,000 is really on us to take care of and repair. So this year we have a couple of doors at Russell Street School that need to be repaired or replaced. Those are about $6,000 a piece. So that comes out of our maintenance budget, things like that. So
fiscal year 26, this is, the ask gets made in March. It's voted through May town meeting, and then we would look to accomplish these line items June 1, 25 through, or July 1, 25 through June 30, 26.
not necessarily. An approved capital project good for 3 years. So the funding is
Secure.
the funding is secure from the town for 3 years.
Identified, and you've got 3 years to complete the project,
Correct.
which would be, the high school roof would be a great example of that, right?
Correct.
Because we, at some point, we're absolutely gonna need a high school roof because we're gonna run into a situation where we've got so much, the roof's in such bad shape that it potentially becomes a safety issue, right? So the town identifies the money, perhaps we apply for MSBA financing, MSBA program, maybe we don't get in, we've got the money, maybe we decide we can try one more time. If we get in, great, we can give some of the money back. If we don't get in, maybe we have to spend the town money to replace the roof.
Correct, and the roof, the roof, it's been thrown out where maybe we can do it in sections. Do the worst section first and then do another section the following year. It's an option. To me, I think that increases the cost because now you have a contractor having to stage twice, bring in cranes twice, but it's an option we're looking at.
What kinds of things does MSBA fund? I thought they just did new schools.
No, they'll do roofs and roof replacement and boilers as part of, they used to call it emergency, I forgot what they used to call it.
Do they do windows as well?
They do, I think they do windows as well, but
Is it the same arduous process?
yeah, it is. You now have to apply under
Yeah, it is.
the basic building process. They used to have a separate program for that. They've done away with that program, and now any of those projects, you now have to apply as you would a building project. So you have to start with a statement of interest, wait to get accepted, and then go through the whole process.
And with the fact that we're in the process of Shaker Lane.
Has
I
no-
mean, if it's
has no
totally
bearing on
different,
No bearing on it. They're viewed as separate projects from MSBA funding.
The track's such a community asset, I don't see a lot of opposition there, and it's something that we certainly need to take care of. The playground, then it's a smaller item. Then just to refresh, the middle school, rooftop units, those are end of life, not functioning properly.
They are working now, but they're band-aided together by our HVAC technicians
Okay.
and outside companies. So, I mean, that building's now 19 years old. The estimated useful life of these are 15 years old. The difference between, because honestly, if you think about it, if you look at the high school, some of those units on the high school are 22 years old, still running. The fundamental difference is the location of the high school. Those units, they have high walls around them. They have like 8-foot parapet walls around where those units are located. And so they're protected from a lot of the elements on the high school. The middle school, they're on the roof. They're not protected from the elements at all. And so they take a lot more wear and tear, rain, sun, things like that.
But we would look to protect the new ones better. I mean, is that a design?
There's
flaw?
it's, I don't think it's a design flaw. It's just the way the buildings were designed.
Architecturally different.
And then the boiler thing we went through with the budget subcommittee, but we're in a situation where that's gotta be done, and every year that we don't do it, we run the risk of needing emergency boiler services, because when it goes, it's gonna go.
When it
We're
goes,
not able to source parts anymore, essentially.
correct. So if we have two boilers, so if one goes, you have the other one as backup, and we run that one.
Full steam.
Right. And push come to shove, if the second one broke down, we'd scavenge probably the first one, take parts off the first one, fix the second one. So we would have a second, but you wouldn't have a backup. So not a good situation when it gets to 0 degrees outside and you got a boiler trying to keep up.
Right.
So
I think you talked about this at another meeting, but you already looked into solar panels on the high school with the new roof.
we've had multiple conversations with multiple companies and the electric
Over the years.
company about solar panels. There was never able to reach an agreement with the outside companies who were gonna install the solar panels as to rate buybacks and that kind of stuff. And, we can reopen it
I
again.
mean, is that like something that changes year to year, as solar panels become more widespread? Is it worth revisiting or?
It's
We have
re-
pretty low rates here.
Yeah,
in Littleton too, so it's,
Well, that's, yeah.
that's taken into account
Yeah.
for the vendors.
Yeah, it's really the cost of installing the units and the electricity they produce and that they're able to sell back, if the electric company isn't willing to buy that back at a rate that pays back the company for doing the installation, they can't reach an agreement. And, you know, these solar companies are used to going up against National Grid and in these other cities in town that are paying 18, 19, 22, 23 cents a kilowatt. Littleton, we pay 12, 13 cents a kilowatt for electricity. So it really, the numbers haven't worked out.
Well, it's an interesting problem to be in because as you say, Kelly, our rates are so low here in Littleton compared to others across the state, you know. you're
Yeah,
looking
and
at-
I'm not a solar panel expert, so I know we've
Yeah.
had discussions multiple times with companies.
We had an
It just
elaborate,
hasn't worked out.
we had quite an elaborate plan where we're gonna put canopies over the parking lots at the middle school and the high school.
Yeah,
The
well,
solar
they have it at
panels would be
Sudbury
up
High
top.
School.
Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but we couldn't,
Couldn't
I mean,
make
the
it stop.
payback to the company was like 25 years or something like that, and they said, can't do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, when we get closer to funding the high school roof project, would be an opportunity to open that conversation up again.
Yeah,
We wouldn't
just
put the
this-
panels, we wouldn't consider doing the panels with a roof that's needs to be
Right.
replaced.
correct, that's also part of the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
You don't want to put the panels and have to take them off, redo the roof and then reinstall them. That's just
Right.
not financially, because if a company installs them, we have to do a roof, we would be responsible for removing them, the cost of removing them and then installing the solar panels back. And this. So. That's where I'm at with capital. I've submitted the file to the town, so they're aware of these. Again, that's up to the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen to decide what funding is available, and how much they give us. So those are the big requests and the immediate need that I see, that we need to do.
Thank you for being so thorough.
Thank you for projecting this. I really like seeing us ahead of time. This is what the maintenance will be. Something I've been concerned about in town on and off is that I've seen maintenance be pushed out really too far. And I love that you're helping us stay in front of that. Because I think that, I just think that's a bit more fiscally responsible. As well as, you know, I mean, it's the safety and health of our kids, you know.
Thank you.
Steve, did anything ever come of that, at the track, that light pole request that we got a few years ago?
So we had a request to add additional electricity further down the track.
Yeah, like a safety issue, yeah.
We had, an electrician out, we had, Littleton Electric out. The cost to add one outlet to the other end of the field was about $60,000. We said, forget it. We'll buy you a generator, a small generator if you want electricity down there. So, it just was not economically feasible. The power that's coming in there that feeds the outlet and the string of parking lots there, at Russell Street, barely has enough energy in that line to power the lights, let alone add additional lines down the track. So, it just didn't work out. We looked at it, had the estimates, just didn't work out. So for $1,000, they can buy a little Honda, very quiet generator that you hardly hear running and run their track timing lights off a little generator if they need to.
Yeah, no, I remember there was I thought the need came from like folks that were walking the track in the early spring, early fall.
Or they wanted an additional light. Well, again, to
More
put
of that side super dark.
Right.
and
right, it's just,
tripping
there's no way to
hazard.
get light, there's no way to get electricity down there and do it inexpensively. And less light and water changes that whole power line that's in there and runs a different
Okay.
voltage or whatever amperage, I don't know what it is, but
Right, questions, all set?
all right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Very.
Should we clap for Steve?
Yes.
Comprehensive.
Please. Second opportunity for citizens. Hearing from none, we'll move through our subcommittee reports. BMBC. Feel free to talk about Shaker Lane.
Yeah, we do Shaker Lane?
Sure.
So we just actually submitted our PSR on the tenth, to the MSBA. So what that is the schematic design that we voted on in November. So trying to think of the last time we've updated you guys. So I think it was November 13th, school building committee meeting, we voted on one of the three options that we had originally proposed, and it was 3.2, the upper fields, that we voted on. So PSR goes into MSBA for them to review. I believe they're not getting back to us in 2 weeks. They have like a month, and then at the end of February.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they have like,
They come back
they have
to
like
us.
6 or 8 weeks, I think, if I
Yeah.
remember something like that.
So MSBA is currently reviewing that proposal for that schematic design that we put on in November. And once they give us the approval on that, then we move on to the next steps.
Yeah, we actually have to meet with MSBA sometime after the approval,
Okay, yep.
so mandated meeting. That's where we talk about square footage. And once again, justify why we chose that option.
So moving along, we had good attendance at the two community tours that we had for Shaker Lane, hoping to do more if we need to, but we got a lot of good feedback from voters as to some questions that we're obviously going to see in town meetings and concerns and things that we needed to address in some of our messaging. So I think those were really, really valuable meetings to have to start to get some input from the community as to what we need to speak to for the concerns. It's a big project. It's the biggest project in Little Simple. We'll see. So we need to get voters on board. So it was helpful to get that feedback.
Good.
Yes, but one question.
Okay.
If MSBA turns down what was just submitted, do we have the opportunity to come back and like talk to them, submit a different choice?
I would think so, right?
Yeah,
It's kind of it's a collaborative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a collaborative approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
It's more MSBA isn't gonna turn it down, but they might have questions, clarifying questions, I think. That's my understanding.
I think it was like a 600 page. It's a
Yeah, 600 pages.
report. So they'll go through that and probably pick a few things that we need to adjust.
most likely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, budget subcommittee. Janine, feel free to jump in. We had a meeting not too long ago, rolled through some of these capital requests that were shared with you folks tonight. Took really our second look at next year's budget. So continue to work hard to find efficiencies within the budget to try to keep the numbers as low as possible and provide the same exceptional educational value to our citizens. We talked about that SRO position, so I was glad to see that come to fruition tonight. Really, we were gonna meet, there'll be likely a new format of this year's presentation, which you guys will see in March. So we'll show some of the same slides that we've seen in the past, but we'll kind of slice and dice it a couple different ways. Missing anything?
I think that we covered everything.
Good. Policy subcommittees got a number.
Are you ready?
Policies?
of policies for us to look at.
For all the
First
D
reading.
policies.
Okay,
If you want them on the screen, let me know. I can pull them up.
I think you all have them in your packets, and this is really for first read. What we can go through, and thank you, Dorothy, for this. This is so helpful rather than going through each one. Dorothy made a chart of all the changes we made in each one. The majority of them we aligned with the MASC policy. But I can sort of go through and tell you where we aligned but changed something. So in DA, we aligned with the MASC policy, not too drastic in terms of changes, just a lot of updates, but we did add in bullet number 5, which was, wait, is it bullet 5 or 6? It's 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which wasn't in the MASC and we wanted to keep in our policy. So if you look at our proposed DA policy, it's the same as MASC, but we added in bullet 5.
Actually, it's actually bullet 1. Where it talks about equity.
Oh, that's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. So the 5th bullet, that's what it was, right? But then now it's number 1.
Right. I believe so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Excuse
That's
me.
why I was like, it wasn't the timely appropriate. Yeah. We had that bullet in our original policy and MASC doesn't in their new version, and we felt like we wanted to keep it.
So the part about equity.
Yeah, so we have kept that in our proposed DA policy for first reading.
Okay.
DB, we also, for the most part, took the update of the MASC policy in the second to last paragraph, where it says revisions to the budget may be made from time to time with the from the superintendent. At the last sentence, revisions to the budget may be made from time to time. This said by the school committee. And so we had changed that language to propose the superintendent because it's talking about the like
Budget transfer.
what we thought, yeah, is sort of transferring from line item to line item, which we didn't feel like for every piece needed the approval of the committee. But that's a proposed revision from the MASC policy. Otherwise, we copied the MASC policy.
I have a question about the paragraph after that,
Yeah,
where it makes reference to the school council. What is that? Is that supposed to be school committee?
That's pretty.
is that the school council?
Yeah,
That's a good to me.
the principals work with the school council as well when they're preparing a budget to submit to Steve and I,
Mhm.
with some participation from the school council.
So for each school, they can give input to their
Okay.
specific
Okay.
school budget.
Yeah.
All that content.
That,
Yeah, you had.
I was just curious what the other school committee members thought about the change that you folks made. So revisions to the budget may be made from time to time by the superintendent. Kelly, no offense, of course, but that's a pretty broad statement.
Mhm.
So not just thinking about 5 of us, but thinking about whatever, 6,000 or 7,000 households in Littleton and a $25 million budget. Should material changes come before the school committee?
The
If
practice,
it's line item transfers, which I see because I signed for them.
Yeah.
Are
it's just referring to,
totally fine.
it's just referring to line item transfers.
Okay, maybe we should say that then.
To specify
We can
that
specify.
It
differently.
just makes
Yeah,
it more clear, because otherwise it's like, we present the budget and we tell you where all the money's going, and then this says the superintendent can make changes.
yeah. So maybe we say revisions to specific line items, maybe
Yeah.
or-
That's fine. I mean,
between line items.
Yeah.
I think we can work on.
the statutes actually say that the school committee votes on the budget, the superintendent allocates funds to take care of the needs of the district. But we do everything together anyway. It's just that line transfers are something that we need to do. They need to be done quickly. And it would
Understood.
be- Yeah, it would be just too time consuming. Our job is to make sure our budget balances, to have school choice funds that we can take out. But legally, we have to stay within the realm of what the budget is, with the exception of school choice funds, for 240 grants, et cetera.
So can we say line item transfers instead of revisions?
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, and I think because the line before that was there,
Yeah.
that was the context for it. If circumstances may occur which necessitate changing spending priorities and redirecting funds within the budget, that's what it's referring to. But I appreciate and happy to sort of make that line specific. It's in the line before, and that's what it's referring to.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that paragraph already says what y'all are concerned about, but to me, that means.
We could say such revisions may be made to
Sure.
the budget, because we're then referring
Referring
to.
back to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, I hear you.
yeah, that would work.
That works perfect.
Okay. Does this still then go for first read? That's okay, if we're proposing revisions?
Yes, still first reading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So what is that, what is it?
So in that line, second to last paragraph, where it says revisions to the budget may be made from time to time. If we add a such revisions may be made, then we're referring to the sentence before.
Good wordsmithing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on the policy side. Okay, TBJ, we actually are proposing that we keep the Littleton policy, so this is no change to our previous policy. I think when we read the MASC policy, it just was overly complicated and it said the exact
Same
same
thing.
thing in many more words.
Mhm.
And so this just, it really accomplishes what the policy says in our mind.
The
Yeah.
last sentence in paragraph 2. Maybe because I see it other places, I'm just wondering if this is part of our practice, so do we close out the fiscal year with a presentation to the school committee about all of the final line item expenditures?
We have not done it on a regular basis, no.
Right. So. Perhaps we should.
It's up to the school committee if they'd like us to.
Well, maybe we should make a policy if we don't do it on a regular, I'm just. asking.
Or
No, I
shall be
understand.
provided to the committee by request, might be accurate.
Or just so, I
Yeah.
mean, you're doing it, I'm sure you're keeping track as it goes along, so it's just like, you know, run the report and if you want to see other details, it's right there.
Yeah, we used to do it. and
Yeah,
it was-
typically that would not be done until probably September or October when the town closes its books. And we
Yeah.
balance all the accounts and have everything's finalized, so.
I think it would be a good idea to do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's in policy, we should be doing it, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, let's do it.
The September would show for the previous year.
Right,
It's close. Yeah,
right, I'd
I
show
think
what
that's a
the,
good.
I
what the
mean,
June 30.
yeah, it would be like our
Just one.
second school committee meeting.
Yeah, it's a good
something like
practice.
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
great.
Whenever it's done.
Yep, whenever it's done.
Great.
Okay, DGA. We just adopted the MASC policy. And this is about authorized signatures. This, we felt like reflected
So we currently.
what we currently do.
Sense.
DI. We also updated to the current MASC policy. It aligns with what we do. DIE. We did adapt the MASC policy for the most part. There was, which line was it? Upon completion of the audit. There was a part that said in the this is in the first paragraph. An audit of the school department's accounts shall be conducted annually by external auditors. The MASC policy said within 9 months of the close of fiscal year. While that is certainly desirable and the goal, we didn't want to, when you can't control external auditors and when they're available, we just didn't want to hold ourselves to something. So we just took that out, but kept it. So we took out the within 9 months.
The language we kept in is the current language we have in the policy.
Yep,
So
it's the same. And then we added designee after superintendent in the first sentence in the second paragraph. So it says the superintendent / designee.
Could you, while we're on top, could you send us the most recent report?
Yeah, I thought I did.
You probably did.
resend it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Would you all like to receive it?
The most recent audit.
The most recent audit was probably 2023. They're still auditing, they're in now
Yeah,
auditing
do that-
2023.
Yeah, the two, whatever we have, 2023, just so I can
Yep,
familiarize myself
Yep.
with it and then compare it to the 24.
we usually send that to school committee every year when we get the report, so.
Yeah.
If I forgot this year, I apologize, I'll check,
I
but
don't
thought I did.
remember seeing it, but doesn't mean you didn't send it.
Okay, I'll send it.
DJ, we also adapted the MASC policy. Only changes we added, it shall be the responsibility of the superintendent / designee. otherwise the same. And we did keep towards the end, you'll see the superintendent will designate the district purchasing agent.
But this isn't about the policy per se, but I was just curious, is there a dollar amount beyond which a purchase has to go out to bid? Or does the district have a policy on that?
So we follow Mass 30B laws, so with the school department, anything over $10,000, we're supposed to get 3 quotes. Anything over $100,000, we have to go out to bid on.
Okay.
With the exception of contracted service.
Correct. And then if you buy from vendors that are on this approved state vendor list, you don't have to do any of it. You just have to really kind of buy from approved vendors. So we follow 30B, it gets audited every year.
Policy DK, similar, we adapted the MASC updated policy, except in the first sentence where we added superintendent / designee. And this is about procedures for payment. And then DKC, we've just updated to the new MASC language around reimbursement.
Hard work.
So these are all for first read.
The motion to accept the first reading, you would call out the letters of the policies in your motion.
I motion to accept the first reading of the following policies: DA, DB, DBJ, DGA, DI, DIE, DJ, DK, DKC.
Motion made by Dino,
Second?
seconded by Elaine. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect, thanks so much. We'll see this for second reading next meeting.
Next meeting.
Great. We already heard about the scheduling building committee. Just for everyone's education, the LEA reached out about the annual opportunity for a couple members of the LEA, Little Educators Association, a couple members from the school committee to get together and talk about educational trends and such. So I had asked for a couple dates in January, and they'll offer a couple dates, and I'll get those dates out to us to see who would like to volunteer for that. I think most recent years we kind of shared in that opportunity. So if you did make it last time, want to make it this time, that'd be great. We're looking to send 2 people to the meeting so that we don't have a quorum. Okay. Anything else from anybody before we ask for a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion made by Stacy, seconded by Janine. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have adjourned. Our next meeting will be January 9th, 2025, 7 p.m. See you then.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everyone.
The holidays.